All right, here we go. Another drive. This one's gonna be a little bit longer than what we usually do. This is for FSD 12.6.1, of course, Hardware 3 vehicle. We're going to take our typical path here, see if we notice any regression, any progression, and everything in between. So right now we have an 18-wheeler that's going to allow us to stay within the speed limit, of course. Very large vehicle. We have a couple road closures due to construction in the area, so folks are being redirected this way and that. We're just getting by the school here before school zone is school zone times are implemented, so shouldn't have any issues there. But on this trip, we will have a good mix of both city and highway driving. Going to head out for some errands. So really looking at how FSD continues to handle areas with construction. For those that have been following me viewing these videos, I'm usually around the same areas when it comes to construction, but I think it's super important to continue to go over those same areas. As I mentioned in the past, I've had situations where there's been a terrible turn or something was just out of character for FSD, and then the next trip, it would be much better, okay? And vice versa. I'd have something that, would have an awesome turn, and then the next trip, it's like, what happened? What regressed? So super important that we continue to take similar paths, as well as mixing it up a bit and getting some new routes in there, seeing how FSD initially handles that route. Have some great videos coming up soon, taking some drives, some more highway stuff, some more downtown stuff, a little bit of everything. So first up is this left turn. It's notorious for being a jerky turn due to us having to pass through an island. But that was excellent. That was an excellent turn. So a couple trips now, this turn has been much better than it has been in the past. So great example. I think, for folks that are used to utilizing FSD and even folks that may not, you have one bad experience and you kind of write it off saying, oh, I'm not even going to go that way anymore. And I get that. That's totally justifiable, but it's also always good if you can to continue to try and see if there's been any changes. So I can say probably like 5 or 10 videos back when I made that left turn, it was close to disengagement as far as how bad the turn was because it couldn't recognize, it couldn't recognize where the island was in relation to the line, in relation to the actual lane. It was everywhere. So definitely that learning aspect, I feel like that AI aspect comes into play. And then also reporting issues as well. Certain folks have mixed feelings on reporting an event. I think it's super helpful. It's super useful to the Tesla AI team. Even if you feel you have to report the same thing over and over, I know somebody's watching, I know someone's gathering that info. They have analytics on all that stuff. So, Okay, so coming up to this left. And by the way, my profile is still set to hurry. Let's see if we try and squeeze through this. So this car in front of me recognizes that. Let's see, I may take over because I want to make this light. But let's see. We're not in the biggest rush, so I'll let it do its thing. And see, we weren't going to make the light anyway, so look at that. Okay, so it kind of darts out to no avail. Yeah, lights around here are difficult. Northbound to southbound isn't, and vice versa, it isn't a large congestive area in comparison to east to westbound, so they're going to cut our light short every single time. All right, back at it. Has a real nice assertive left turn. Squeezing through these folks, respecting that vehicle at 18-wheeler. All right. Good takeoff. Nothing too aggressive. Usually if you are in front of the lane when it comes to stoplight and that light turns green, there is that initial acceleration there to get you up to speed. Okay, so that's definitely a hurry move. That was a pretty strong lane change. It sped up with assertiveness. I don't want to call it aggression, but definite assertiveness that it wanted to pass that vehicle in question. And that's kind of just what you're going to get with the hurry mode. If that's not your thing, definitely recommend standard. Okay, so there's some tight lanes coming up. Again, this is one of the typical areas I take, but just due to construction, it can get a little tight. Certainly, you have all different shapes and sizes, widths of vehicles, like this truck with this trailer, tow hitch. FSD is recognized. This is somebody we definitely want to pass if we can. Again, going across this upcoming intersection, it's a tight, rather awkward, uneven turn. So I usually have my antennas up in case I need to take over, especially at this speed. See, there's this vehicle's turning over. And that was better. One thing that was brought up by a visitor, a viewer, was FSD changing lanes through an intersection. And it's a good call out at, based on where you live, your state or county. While it may not be completely illegal, it's something that's, I won't say shunned, but it's not recommended, just safety wise, things like that. So I'm not quite sure. I've reported that in the past just because I didn't necessarily like how it felt. And, for the situations I've been in, there's really been no need to change lanes during an intersection. I would understand if, someone slowed down drastically in the lane that I was in, which then caused FSD to make that abrupt change. Cool. But if there's no one around me within a certain radius, it's like, let's just stay in the lane through the intersection, and then immediately after, go ahead and change lanes. I don't mind. Okay, so coming up on a right turns, we always make sure our curb is covered. Turn this camera on. And this is a yield as well. Looks like we're in the clear though, so we shouldn't have to wait. We are off. That's a nice turn there. And now we are finding ourselves at the beginning of end to end on the highway. Okay, so there is some guardrail damage ahead, which is, they have a sign for that indicating guardrail damage. Very interesting. And we are approaching the entrance of the tollway here. Good speed coming up, left shoulder closed. There is a various amounts of construction signs, road signs, things of that nature. Speed limit is 60. So we are in a work zone. Always definitely be mindful of that. Of course, going with the flow of traffic is important as well, but not necessarily above safety. Doing 65, speed limit still being recognized as 70. Okay, now the work zone has begun. It has recognized the speed limit being 60, so we shouldn't be going more than that 40% auto offset that I have enabled for the FSD profile. Okay, so we are still in hurry mode though, so we decided to pass that vehicle there, get into the fast lane. So another thing I'm curious on, I haven't taken a longer or a road trip in a while, especially in those 4-lane highways, to see if it respects, using the fast lane as it's intended to pass someone and then going back into the right lane to let other vehicles that want to go faster pass, right? So if you have, let me know in the comments. Now coming up here, this is a different merge. Like that splits off into two separate things. We're actually pretty good. I'm usually in that middle lane, and it gets really weird as far as how this is set up. Again, this is all temporary. They're kind of just putting things together as they expand the tollway. So right now we are in the faster lane. It's 60 as a speed limit now. We're doing 73. This vehicle was behind us, now it's past us, and has got in front of us. I think this is a great speed. Speed limit now being 70. We're still within the realm of respecting the flow of traffic, so no issues on my end. Anytime I pass a tollway, I always think of actual toll booths, airports that have toll booths. I have not had a chance to see that in play. If FSD will slow down, stop for the toll booth and pick back up. I imagine it would, especially if there's vehicles in front of you. But if there aren't any vehicles, I don't know. If anyone has, again, leave that in the comments. I'd like to know. I haven't had any reason to go to the airport, not recently. And I think even if I do have to go to the airport, I wouldn't take the Tesla. So I'm not sure I'll get a chance to check that out. But again, so far so good. I think, this is where FSD, autopilot, all that really shines is highway. I've been on this tollway several times, so it's typically a great experience. But at the same time, I'm always mindful of, okay, so this person has his lights on. FSD recognizes that there's something going on we don't like. Let's see. So we're going to slow down. Let's see. So he went that way. Okay. It was interesting. FSD was kind of hesitant to make that lane change. There was a truck coming up, so I definitely respect that. It makes sense to me. If I was driving, of course, I would kind of just initiate that lane change and zip out of the way. But we're not talking about me, we're talking about FSD, and safety comes first. So by all means, that was the right move to take. See, every time I start the beginning of the videos with saying something's going to be straightforward, especially on these DFW, North Texas, North Dallas streets, it never is. It never is. I'm just glad I'm able to catch it on camera, share it with you all. Okay, so we are going to end up taking, okay, I see what it's doing. So we're going to end up going on an additional on-ramp to switch over to a different tollway. I typically take the streets at this point, which, again, as I discussed in a previous video, and it does show at times different paths you can take. If you want to take an alternate route to your destination, I'd like for that to be displayed at all times if possible. At least one alternate route just to, just to guide FSD the way we want. Maybe we have another stop we want to take and we don't want to type it in, right? But if I see an alternate route that may go through that stop I want to take, I can just click that. FSD will recognize it and do its thing, So something to hope for if anyone's listening. Okay, so going up this on-ramp of sorts. Folks aren't in Texas and are aware, these are very large on-ramps. One of the things that Texas is known for, how the infrastructure of highways and tollways are set up. Truly one of a kind that I'm aware of. Okay, so this is an important piece here, how we merge onto this area, how we are going to get off. Okay, nick of time. So not mad at that. Put our signal on there, even though we're going to merge. That's okay. Yeah, in previous builds, I've taken that same on-ramp and I've had to disengage because partially out of fear. That's a very high on-ramp, and I didn't like how the steering wheel was jerking at the time, and then, so again, that's a plus, that's a positive improvement since the last couple builds, is how it handled that on-ramp, and then us getting off the tollway back onto city streets. That was flawless, y'all. So no complaints on my end from the highway end-to-end piece. From my perspective, very, very, very good. No regressions whatsoever. Okay. So here we go here, approaching this left turn. Always monitor the smoothness of the turn. That was a plus. No jerkiness, no hesitation whatsoever. Now, where I probably will disengage is it thinks it's going to make a U-turn. Whew, that this four-way intersection is typically a street that you do not attempt to do such thing. Typically, I would just say, forget it, let's do it. I'm not confident in it making this U-turn without having to potentially back up, which then will stop the flow of traffic. Decisions. Okay. And I don't think I've taken this. I don't think I've taken this route to get to where I need to go. Who cares? Let's do it. Let's see if we can make this U-turn, or let's see how quickly I can fix it. And this is an extended curb too. Whew. A plus. So there are several people that made the turn after. That made that U-turn after. But regardless of those people making the U-turn after, we made it first. Now, it'd be different if the vehicle in front of me made that U-turn first. Then it's like, okay, it's possible. But the fact that we made that U-turn to initiate, that's big time. And there we go. Now it's kind of trying to figure out, where do I need to go? Are you going to park? You did. It's definitely in the middle of two lanes, but regardless, that was a great trip. So stay tuned. We'll have some part twos, part threes coming soon. Until then.